Hello, everyone.
Episode 1, boys.
Welcome to the first episode of Louder Than Podcasts, where we shall be streaming, playing games, talking about media, games, movies, music, etc. Literally everything. I'm Eric. I'm joined here with Chris and Chris.
Hello. There we go.
Competence, coherent discussion, good equipment management. If you expect any of these, you will be disappointed.
That's what makes it a good podcast, right?
Yeah, it makes it more real, right? But hey, let's get into the first conversation. So Chris brought up the idea that using a mouse on console gaming is cheating. And
it's the debate of whether or not it's cheating, because a friend and I had varying opinions on it last night, and I thought it would be very interesting.
He's like, I didn't even know you could do that.
Okay, well, see, now here's what makes it a weird, potentially divisive issue, is that okay, so when you buy a controller, like just a console controller, not a trick question, like your Sony PS4, Microsoft Xbox One, it's an official controller. And then you have your third-party licensed ones, like your Rock Candies, your Hori pads, things like that. Now, would you agree that the assumption is that those would be fair play in any sort of competitive environment, considering they're licensed?
Yeah, definitely.
I would argue they would be standardized depending on the format of the game and genre.
You mean the third-party controllers?
Yes. For instance, I don't think there's any officially licensed Microsoft fight stick for those sort of 2D and 3D fighting games.
Right, that's actually one that comes to mind for me as well, because I'm into fighters. So yeah, you think of the Mad Cat sticks and whatnot.
Yeah, but there is at least one Sony official, if I'm not mistaken, courtesy of the Street Fighter V exclusivity. I could be
mistaken. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that might be like another Mad Cat stick. I didn't own it. Friends of mine have. But okay, so we're in the same general agreement though that like if it's licensed, you're good.
Good to go.
Correct. Now the issue is I'm pretty sure that the converters like the Cronus, the Brooks, the things that they plug into your console via USB, and they let you use either gamepads from other consoles, or they let you use keyboard mouse. And my friend was arguing that it is not cheating because it's a one-to-one representation of the controls on a gamepad. You're just remapping it to a different format. And I argued that while at the heart of the argument, I want to agree with him, mouse aiming is it's a precision that you can't do with just a thumbstick. But I don't have any official, physical research on that, but after using both and growing up playing console my whole life until I was in my 20s, I still I just feel the difference on a mouse.
Dude, I'm on the same boat with you. I used to be a full console gamer, and I was like, oh yeah, what's the point? This is the best. This is the pinnacle of everything with this controller. Then I started doing PC gaming, and I didn't really feel a change. But when I went back to console gaming, I really felt the difference that hey, it's really hard to aim with a stick.
Right. And even though it is technically just mapping what would be on a pad on a mouse, I mean, while I don't have the physical research to say whether or not it's objectively a more precise method of aiming, you also have to look at how things are balanced. Overwatch on console, Torbjorn was balanced. I mean, this is old news. I don't know how relevant this is now, but he was balanced against the fact that they couldn't aim against his turrets, because the turrets were basically, they're auto aiming. That's kind of the whole point. Yeah, they're aimbots. And, console players were like, this is ridiculous. I can't keep up. While on PC, people were like, what's the big deal? You just take out the turret, because they had this much more precision with their aiming. So even if it is a one-to-one representation, you run the risk of balancing their game around it being on a console. Therefore, you're kind of cheating if you're not using that control setup.
I think it's like widely accepted at this point that the mouse is way better for like FPSs. That like you do get that precision that you need to get those headshots.
And people who have been found to use converters have been banned online.
Really?
And yeah, they handle them in the same vein. You know, people buy those like the macro controllers with like the undetectable chips in them. I feel that they're handled in a very similar way, even though instead of literally auto controlling the game for you like a lot of macros do, you're literally just using a mouse. And it's obviously the keyboard is not what is the issue here. The keyboard is fine. It's just buttons. You know, the thing that people are concerned about is, does this person have an unfair aiming advantage?
I would say it's cheating to use a mouse on the console. How do you feel, Chris? I mean, not Chris. Ferox.
This is not going to get confusing at all. I do not have any statistical studies at hand. However, I will argue for the fact that there is a quantifiable difference. And this isn't just a matter of there being the preference or platform differences in terms of balance. This is a matter of, I'll use Xbox One and Steam on PC as an example. On Steam, I recently acquired a Steam controller. The Steam controller has one of, if not the most precise right analog functions I've ever seen on a controller.
To a fault, actually. I own one as well, and I find it, like, actually uncomfortably sensitive.
I really want to try that.
Whereas on console, you would expect some degree of aim assist, or even just a matter of, I guess, skipped frames, for lack of a better word, where it will overlook certain inputs if they are extraneous. The idea of cutting out redundant functions.
Right.
As on PC, it's still set up with the mouse mentality in mind, whereby every frame is necessary, you are going to be precise at all times.
Yeah, and I think that's the real issue here, is that, like, I'd have to ask my friend again, because he has, he dabbled in the converter lifestyle because he played Destiny on Xbox, because all of his friends played it on Xbox, and, you know, there wasn't a PC release of the first Destiny, but he really wanted to play it, so he had an Xbox, and he bought a Cronus, and he used his gaming keyboard and his gaming mouse, and it worked very well for him. But, you know, that's not as gray area because you're not competing as much in that game unless you're a professional raider.
Well, I mean, Destiny does have PvP modes.
Okay. In his case, I'm sorry, I should have said he did raiding and like co-op. But you're right, he could have PvP'd. He also, though, without telling anybody, like in the public game, he had played Halo with it, and people were like suspicious that he was doing something. They didn't necessarily all say cheating, but they were suspicious of his reactions. And his argument was that, well, you know, it's emulating a gamepad 1-to-1, but it's funny that you said what you did about the, you know, extraneous inputs, because that's exactly what I said to him, was like, yeah, but the mouse is detecting, you know, precise moments that you're moving your character that the gamepad would render as like just extra data and not really worry about it. And like, I think that is the issue.
Yeah, like even on like max sensitivity, if you play with that, it's still like really hard to get like the right movements. Like it feels a little archaic on a controller compared to the mouse.
Right.
And here's another comparison while we still have the Steam controller fresh in mind. For my Xbox One, I do not have a standard Xbox controller. I only have Xbox One Elite controllers. And I've used Xbox One regular controllers at my friends' houses. And these are both licensed products. They are both pack-ins with the console, depending on which version you get. And the fact is that the Xbox One Elite controller has additional paddles on the back. It has additional functions which you can't map to a regular controller.
Right.
And while this may not be analogous to the mouse discussion because you can swap in the right analog sticks for ones of different length, the fact is that the advantage there is more in terms of face button access.
So wait, are you telling me this is a IRL version of pay to win?
Not quite, because it's still...
PC, but
it still comes down to basically what's comfortable for you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure that if you put an equally skilled player, like, okay, if you look at a fighting game, right? There have been Evo winners who have used gamepads, or at least, you know, strong contenders. Now, objectively, in my opinion, you have better access to the punch and kick buttons on a fight stick. But that didn't stop people from just feeling comfortable on pad, because the thing is, you're not giving anybody on a fight stick something that pad players do not have. You have functionally the same buttons that register the same binary inputs of either not pressed or pressed.
Things like
that's the issue with FPS is that it's a matter of degrees of movement instead of just did you look up yes or no.
See, like, when it comes to, like, fighting games, I actually feel a lot more comfortable on the keyboard because I used to play a lot Mugen back in the day.
Oh, okay.
So, like, I grew up playing that for, like, 3 years straight, playing with, like, all the different characters, and, like, they had, like, the quarter circle combos, they had, like, all the combos from different games.
Oh, of course, because they're all, you know, they're ripped fighters from other games, and yeah, you can change the move list, but chances are Ryu is still going to have a quarter circle forward Hadouken. Like,
yeah. So, like,
but they also are
that.
oriented in a matter of directional movement, and that's more difficult to execute with analog sticks for a regular gamepad. Versus,
but it also, you hit the nail on the head, though. It's 8 directions, not the infinite directions that, you know, a keyboard, mouse, or, you know, free look on a right stick will offer you. And that's where the issue comes in on, quote unquote, you know, is it cheating? Because if you're using, you know, if somebody wants to use a goddamn power glove to fight me, if it has enough buttons, he's not at a disadvantage if he feels comfortable with it.
Dude, someone made his own, like, power glove to play as Doomfist in Overwatch.
Oh
yes.
My god, how did I not see that? I need to see
that
this.
The day it was announced. I called it.
It was amazing.
If we have somebody who can play Winston with bananas, somebody's going to play Doomfist with a power glove.
Oh yeah, the banana dude. That was awesome.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, no, he maps like little like button sensors on like inside a banana, so if he taps the banana, it's a button.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But and
it was bananas.
I'm leaving the chat. And one of the things I find very interesting about this argument about, you know, FPS is it's a one-way street. If you're on PC and you decide to use a gamepad, do your thing, man. Like, whatever. Like, you're comfortable. You're comfortable. Have you guys seen a Widowmaker player by the name of Bambi?
I haven't.
She is very good. She is very, very good. And she plays on console. And yeah, like, she did the whole dabbling in PC thing. I think she recently built a PC with possibly the intent to continue playing on it. But, you know, I would argue that she would stomp a lot of PC players, even if she played on PC with her PS4 gamepad. I have a friend who was a very good tracer. I don't know how he would rank. I forget how he did in competitive. Bottom line, though, I was more than happy to have him on my team. He was more than an asset. And he used, depending on his mood, I think it was an Xbox 360 controller or a Switch controller, Joy-Con. And he stomped as Tracer on a PC platform where I'm guaranteed all other 11 people in that Overwatch match with us were using keyboard mouse. So, you know, can you overcome the limitation? Sure. You know, you just have to be comfortable with it, but you are kind of starting from a lower point with a right joystick. And, you know, while I understand one friend of mine saying, oh, it's not cheating, it's just 1-to-1, I think there's just advantages you can't ignore. Oh my god, I'm out of ammo. But you just can't ignore that, like, it is more inherently different than just playing on a different set of buttons, like with a fighter or a platformer.
I agree with you. I think it may be down to the fact that, or up to the fact, that there's different skill ceilings available for them.
Yes.
While the top console player or top gamepad player might be able to beat out the average PC player, the average PC player is going to have a greater amount of precision courtesy of mouse.
And actually,
right,
like,
and this is where the giving of, oh, they're both of equal skill comes into play. Eric, you can continue. I just wanted to throw that in there.
First thing, hey, Chris, can you send me an invite? I mean, Ferox, can you send me an invite to the game? I've been chilling on the home screen for like 20 minutes. And second of all, not all games actually are better with mouse and keyboard, because like I remember when Enter the Gungeon came out, everyone was playing with mouse and keyboard, but then like people who were really good were playing with the controller. And I even think like Northernlion went to controller afterwards, after he got like...
He did switch to controller. Do you know what Austin uses? Because he's like in the NL crew, he's the Gungeon guy, you know?
He is. Austin's just good at games in general, though.
Well, yeah, that's kind of his shtick in the group. He's the one who's good at games. No, but like it's funny you bring up Gungeon though, because I think it's like abysmal on controller for me.
Really?
I am terrible at that game on controller unless I use aim assist, and I don't like using aim assist. I don't know, man. It rubs me the wrong way. And you know, another friend of mine who will probably join us at some point, like on one of these episodes. He's got good opinions, strong opinions, and isn't a dick about them. So I'm sure we'll be hearing from him.
Hang on, how's he not blend in if he's not a dick?
Oh, that's a good point. This is louder then, but
wait, what's the password?
The password is bananas.
Capital B?
BNAS. But no, so like we were talking about have you guys seen that game Monolith? By any chance?
I have not.
It's a roguelike shmup. So think Isaac meets like Gradius or like Dodonpachi or something like that. Great game. I have a lot of love for it. I play it with keyboard mouse. My friend Pete plays it with a gamepad. And he was like, just try gamepad, trust me, like you might like it better. You know, not trying to convert me, just like I asked him, I'm like, I don't know how you do it. Like I need that mouse aim. And he was like, just trust me, you know, give it a shot. Who knows? I tried it on gamepad, and while it didn't feel better, I did pretty well compared to my keyboard mouse play. But, you know, that just, again, that's a genre where it could be up to preference, because it's 8 directions, basically. You know, you have a little freedom with the aiming, if you want to be a stickler about it, but you're on a 2D plane versus a 3-dimensional one.
See, like, I actually, now that you said it, going back to Gungeon, now that you're saying it, I actually think I did like the controller more. Because I did play it for a while, and it's like, I think the controller felt more natural to me.
So, now, out of curiosity, did you use the aim assist?
I'm dead. Don't think so.
I never saw you join the world. I'm sorry for interrupting. I'm just trying to figure out where you are.
Oh, it's near the dungeon.
Oh, you spawned all the way over there. Just destroy the bed and use the mirror. We'll spawn back in the center of the world.
Cool beans. But yeah, what was the question?
Did you have aim assist enabled for the controller? Before you answer, know that it is enabled by default if you use a gamepad, I'm pretty sure.
Then probably yes.
Okay. Now you see, I'm of two minds about it. I'm
a plebe.
Yeah, on one hand, I think you're a loser. No, but no, like with single player games, you know, multiplayer games, unfortunately, the community often ends up dictating some form of
what's
progress
better.
in the what's better and whatnot. But on single player games, I'm kind of down to usually start however the dev intends it. So I play on normal, not because I love a challenge. I play tons of hard games, but I want to see what the developer considers this is how I made my game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I don't know if I feel like aim assist was cheating for me, because usually I hate things like but if it's on by default for gamepad, you know, was that intended by the dev? I feel like, and you know, it gave me a little bit of cognitive dissonance. You would think, like we're making up for the precision.
But like,
and you know, it's still a tough game. It doesn't auto win the game for you by any means.
But like, what do you lose from doing that? Like, you lose your pride, and that's it. But like,
but the thing is, it's not even a pride thing for me personally. Like, I don't care. It's a single player game. If I'm not cheating in a multiplayer game, that's one thing. But even if you want to cheat and have fun in a single player game, as long as you're not bragging that you're good, like, no, you cheated. If you're fine with cheating, then have fun. I don't care. But you know, I like to play games to conquer the challenge they present. So if I'm not truly conquering the challenge by using aim assist, I feel like I'm cheating myself. Not the game, not my pride, but I'm cheating my own enjoyment of the game. And that's what I worry about.
So like, there are some games that I like to play that are like stupid hard, like Serious Sam was one of them. It's
right.
Like, it's just a fun game to die in, which is a weird concept.
Whether you're good or bad, it's just fun.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't really matter.
Like, oh, you died, whatever. It's like the suicide bombers were chasing you.
Yeah. But like with Gungeon, like I said, in games like it, I don't want to cheat myself out of the true challenge that the game is supposed to present. And you know, again, in single player games, that's partially up to the player. But you know, I do find it interesting that, you know, it really does come down to the genre, whether or not the keyboard mouse is this ultimate god control scheme, or if it's just, you know, like anything else, do you want to use it or not?
Yeah, like 9 times out of 10, I'll go without the controller, but that's mostly because at this point I'm playing on the Mac, and it's just a pain in the ass to get it to work. You know, this is paying for everything on Mac, but hey, whatever.
I mean, pretty much. I'm not even trying to like dump on Mac. I am a PC guy, but I relatively enjoy having a MacBook. But let me tell you, I've had to jump through some hoops to make that thing portably viable.
Dude, you don't know how like the struggles it was to get OBS to work on here.
Oh, dude, I've streamed like once on my MacBook, and I'm like, theoretically, never again.
Yeah, you're like, oh, audio doesn't work. It doesn't capture the game right.
Yeah, it's not worth it. But yeah, so I can see why you tend to stray away from it. But you know, it really comes down to, you know, as far as preference goes, it depends on the game for me. I always have Xbox controllers nearby. I'm always looking for, I mean, I for my whole life, you know, since I was a kid, I've liked different weird controllers. So like mini game pads, I buy them. You know, weird shaped game pads, I buy them. I was at a flea market this weekend with Taylor, and we got this PS2 controller that does not have sticks. It has little trackball nubs.
That's so
but not
weird.
like the PSP ones. Yeah, it's like they're literally like spherical rubber like little domes that you move with your thumb, and it's really cool. Like, I love stuff like that.
Is that official or is that like a mod?
No, it's a third-party controller for sure.
Okay, I was gonna say
yeah, I've never seen Sony do something like that.
Like, wow, I think I've heard of that one.
Yeah, I'll send you pictures after we're done streaming.
All right, cool.
But yeah, like, I love controllers. I think that gamepads are really important to gaming. Sometimes.
I'm actually
so,
really
you
big
know,
fan of fighting pads.
Oh, dude, fight sticks. Okay, let me tell you something. I grew up in arcades, and you know, when I learned that, I mean, this is something that'll probably come up a million times because it's such a big deal to me. Like, when I learned you can just buy Japanese arcade parts, what? Like, my newest hobby in the past 2 years. Oh, dude, yeah. You can, the big thing to do is to buy, like, you know, a cheap Mad Cat stick that has support for Sanwa parts, because they usually come with cheap ones, you know, that are clones or just inexpensive versions. Mm-hmm. And they're just plug and play. They're literally just two connectors, button connectors. And all I do is pop open the bottom of my stick. You get the buttons out with a little, there's like little pins that click in, and you just literally plug the new button in. I've built fight sticks from scratch using that method.
That's really cool.
Yeah, let me tell you, it's an intense process. I was lucky enough to have a college level makerspace and an engineer friend to help.
I feel like
we designed and built prototypes.
I feel like it's something you would be really into, Ferox.
Dude, it's a blast.
I've always been curious about the, I guess, customization element.
Mm-hmm.
People talking about how they are able to build their controllers back from the ground up so that they don't buy the macros and all that jazz. They're actually able to make it themselves.
Yeah. Oh, we'll talk. We'll talk. I have a lot to tell you, man. But yeah, no, I thought, you know, branching off into the this little side discussion on alternate control schemes, you know, growing up, I played all these games that were, you know, arcade games, whether they were shmups or fighters or, you know, beat 'em ups, action arcade games. And, you know, I loved playing the home versions on, you know, whatever console I was playing on at the time. But man, growing up, you know, as a tech savvy adult now and learning that, man, I can customize these arcade sticks and like, you know, I can play arcade perfect. Yeah, dude, it really is. It opens up this whole new like realm, and it's really, arcade sticks are one of those things like keyboard mouse. You just can't replace it.
Dude, I feel like that'd be like a really cool like stream to do, just like making a louder podcast like joystick.
Dude, I would be down for that if I could get the equipment together. You know what the hardest part is? The housing. It's the housing. It's all the housing. Because the buttons and stuff, everything is dirt cheap except for the housing. You can get a PCB. I mean, granted, it won't work on PS4 or Xbox One, but I don't own an Xbox One and I barely play on PS4. So I can get the Toodles Cthulhu board for like $30, and it literally can support anything from the NES up, if you make a cable for it. And I can get that for $30. The Salma buttons, dude, they're $2 a piece. Wow. Unless you want like the really fancy stuff. $2 a piece. Go ahead.
Casing.
I'll get to why that's the pain in the ass.
Okay.
The stick is the second most expensive part. If I had to, you know, go off the top of my head, somebody listening to this might just want to crucify me. But a joystick like on the PCB is like $20-25 if you get like a nice Sanwa Saimitsu. And then the ball top or the bat top for it is like another like $4. And that's the other cool thing is once I have the actual joystick in, I switch all the time depending on what I feel like playing. If I'm playing a shmup, I might switch to like a ball top. If I'm playing a certain fighter that I grew up playing on bat top and I'm just used to it, I'll switch to a bat top. You can just unscrew it. It's just a piece of plastic and metal. The housing is the issue because that's what's protecting everything. And you want something nice. So yeah, I could build one of my prototypes was literally a box that we screwed the PCB into. And then to get fancy, we had plexi on top that my friend was able to use a laser machine to engrave designs into.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we made like, you know, custom names. We put waifus on it. We did, you know, the whole 9 yards. It was great. But like, you know, that was cool, but it lacked a lot of the finesse, you know, that if you ever look at the inside of a fight stick, you know, they have all like the support pegs for the plastic and it's routed so perfectly. And, you know,
not
even
to
just
diminish the popular fighting sticks, but they're basically heavy load-bearing shelves.
No, you're not diminishing them at all. Like it's a really simple thing. You put a board in that detects 8 directions, like 8 face buttons and a start select button, and then you put it in a box.
Yeah, and if you ever seen somebody lose it at Evo with one of those things, they can take a beating.
Dude, and they can beat other people. Not that you should, but let me tell you, you gotta be careful with those things.
Yet the fight stick is multi-purpose. It is not poorly named.
Yeah, it fights for you and has a stick on it. But like, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you want this to be made out of, you know, well-made materials. I saw a guy in an Evo interview who made his stick out of a Postal Service flat rate box. Like, it can be done. But if you want to look nice and fancy, you know, acrylic ain't cheap. And, you know, you can make it out of wood, but then you know, there's the know-how of sitting there and, you know, routing the wood to the shape you want and sanding it and, what's the word I'm looking for? Finishing it with like a nice stain or painting it properly. It's a lot of variables. And that's why the housing is
tree parody of Mortal Kombat. I'm just thinking of it now. All this talk of finishing the fight stick.
I'm trying to think like you would have like a Cabal, but instead of having the hook swords, he would have like Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, we have a Scorpion cooking show. We can get everything else in carpentry. Just
wait, what?
Instead of tool time.
Yeah, you never saw Cooking with Scorpion?
No.
Oh man, in Deadly Alliance, you know how they have like the crypt system where you unlock like concept art and shit?
Yeah.
Yeah, the crypt system started, I think, in Deadly Alliance or around that time, and one of the things you could unlock was a little like live action short cooking with Scorpion. I'll link it to you.
Oh shit. Okay.
But yeah, no. As far as alternative controls go, I have a lot of love for gamepads and a lot of love for fight sticks, and just like, dude, controlling your game is like it's the gateway to, you know, how you're gonna experience it. It's got to be appropriate. It's got to be comfortable.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but yeah, so I think it's about time for us to switch segments. But I think it's a good note to end off on, instead of yelling about, oh, just fucking get used to keyboards, nerds.
You plebes.
Yeah, exactly.
It went from, is it cheating to, hey, we should all get, like, fight sticks.
Yo, get Overwatch Grandmaster Top 500 with a Mad Catz Tournament Pro. All right.
Don't step towards me unless you have that.
So yeah, should we talk about it?
What about it? What was the subject?
We are not.
Of it?
I am not fucking letting this show devolve into who's on first. We're not doing that. We're not doing it.
Especially on episode 1.
Yeah. No, it's like, at least save that for like 4 or 5 once we've hooked people in enough to fool them.
Yeah, then we can rip off shows that are older than all of us, age combined.
Yeah, exactly.
However, Abigail is probably like my favorite like duo.
I mean, they're a valid choice. Who's on first is a classic, except when it's a, you know, what do you mean we're talking about it? What's it? Also, full disclosure, before we start, and I think all of us should kind of throw our experience in. I have seen the most recent movie, the 2017. I saw the first half of the 1994, whatever year it was. The mini series. I saw the first half, and I am about 20% through the book right now. So take that as you will, and there will be spoilers in this conversation.
All right, so I haven't read the book, but I know what goes on in the book.
I know more about the book than I've read, but I've only personally read 20%.
I know about the really messed up part.
Yeah, we'll keep this a PG-13 stream and say it's a very sexually violating act.
It's why would you ever do that, Stephen King moment?
Yeah.
I like to title that section the Stephen King may or may not, but in all likelihood still on cocaine portion of the book.
Probably still is.
So yeah, so you know the book.
I've seen the original but a long time ago, and I saw the recent version.
Okay.
And I was originally exposed to it via the television miniseries. I read the book, but I have forgotten that along with a lot of other Stephen King writing, so...
I'm sure that it'll come back to you once we start talking about it, so the fact that you have read it...
But, other than that, I saw the most recent movie, and I guess that's about it.
Okay, so we're all pretty familiar with all of the material, the source material, the 2 movies, like, we pretty much, like, we got this.
Yes.
Okay, the order I did was I saw the new movie, being somewhat aware but not very educated on the original source material. Then I started reading the book, and then I saw the miniseries first half, and I gotta say, I think the new movie is the better adaptation so far, and it's only been part 1.
Like, so, like, it's really good. I liked it a lot. But, like, my biggest problem is, like, I loved hearing Pennywise talk in that movie. Like, I loved the way he was doing everything. But, he didn't talk enough, I think. He's focused too much on the jump scares.
I didn't think it was a very jump scary movie. It had them, but I hate jump scares. I think they're cheap and they're not interesting. You don't get me. Oh yeah, haha, like you scared you. Like, no, you jumped at me.
Spooky scary.
Yeah, spooky scary, I get it.
You jumped. I scared you, technically it counts.
Yeah,
Yeah, right?
So I hate that notion. So, you know, keep in mind I'm defending it as somebody who would not defend it if it pissed me off.
So like, it's not like I'm okay with the jump scares that he had. That wasn't that bad, but I mean like, I felt as though that let's go wait. I felt like I wanted more Pennywise talking, and we kind of.
I think that's valid. He was very interesting when he did talk. You're right. I personally thought he had enough talking to be engaging without it being like, okay, Pennywise, we get it, you're scary.
Because like in the miniseries, he did talk a lot.
I mean, you also had Tim Curry for the miniseries.
Yeah, and he was...
Well, I also think that Curry's attitude was the highlight. Like, I don't think that the actual movie was all that good. I think they did the whole like, oh yeah, look, it's their fears, but like, I don't know, man. Like when the kids' fears pop up in the new one, it's like, holy shit, this is eerie. That painting really don't sit right with me, you know?
Yeah, right.
But like when fucking Seth Green is getting chased by a shitty werewolf in the school basement, I'm like, it's not really doing anything for me. Like, you don't get the feeling that the kids are in danger, in my opinion. It's like he's just trying to, like, creep them out without actually, like, scaring. It doesn't feel consequential, I guess.
Okay, I get that.
I had this distinct feeling watching the new version that it didn't even scare me. Maybe it's just because I'm jaded from so many horror movies, but it felt more surreal than scary.
Well, I think that's a valid point that I agree with, and also I would argue that's probably what they were going for, because it's a very supernatural story instead of it being like oh my god, like Friday the 13th has supernatural elements, right? Like, you know, he's like unkillable and he's like immortal, but like really the horror is coming from the fact that this dude might show up around the corner and chop your face off. You know, in it, the whole thing is like, it's surreal. Like, why is that painting coming alive and eating my face? Kind of surreal.
To be honest, I actually thought Pennywise was kind of funny in this movie.
In an unsettling way, though. They really nailed the whole clown thing. He, like
the part that really made me laugh was
between
like,
a villain and a clown.
Yeah, like, he was like a likable villain, which is always nice to see. He wasn't just like a senseless killing machine, which he could have been.
Right, he was a motivated, like, monster of a villain, and yet you still felt these kids were in danger, but you didn't really care. It wasn't like, oh god, kids, kill the monster. It's like, ooh, what the hell is gonna happen here? He's fucked up.
Yeah, did anyone else get the vibe that the kids were not intimidated by him outside of the scenes? They directly said it. I mean, you have the kid from Stranger Things.
I don't know, man. They were...
name I forget. He was like 110% dick jokes the entire movie.
Yeah, but the thing is, I personally got the subject came up. Yeah, they were horrified, but like they were trying to just live their lives. And like, remember when he's like at the arcade and that was Richie, right?
Well, they actually
the character's name.
I forget. It's been a bit.
Well, in any event, you know, and then Bill comes in and he's like, you know, you have to help us, and he's like, come on, man, I just want to practice Street Fighter, come on. And you could get the feeling he's trying to like just brush it off, but he's like, come on, man, please don't bring this up. Like, I've been trying to just live my life and forget about it. And that's the vibe, you know, that's the example I'm using, but I feel like the whole movie had that kind of vibe where like they were trying not to acknowledge the fact that some supernatural force was literally haunting them so that they could just be children.
Oh, I have to say, actually, like, the scariest part for me was the dad for the girl.
And I think that's the other interesting thing is that the original story does this as well, but, you know, they blend the fact that it's real-world horrors, like an abusive father, a mother who turns her son into a hypochondriac. You know, those are real horrors mixed with the fact that, you know, they become prey for this, you know, murder beast. And I think that's one of the things that I find so interesting about the story. And I think that's actually, you know, another thing. Not only are they trying to live their lives and, you know, ignore the haunting, but also, like, they have bigger things to deal with when Pennywise isn't around.
Yeah, and also apparently he shows up when anything like bad happens in their lives, which makes sense.
Yeah, for the new adaptation, there's part of me that thinks that they compartmentalize things a bit too much.
Okay.
Where it's like Pennywise is intruding on their lives, whereas in the miniseries, there's a part of me that, I don't know, maybe I'm giving it too much credit, but there's a part of me that thinks that it was all intermingled together. The way the parents were deliberately abstaining from giving the children information that would, I don't know, possibly allude to them knowing what's happening in Derry.
One thing I will say is it did seem, at least compared to the book, if not also the TV series, it did kind of seem like they were ignoring the fact that like the whole town knows it's haunted, but nobody says anything. That's a big part of the book.
At the same time, the parents couldn't see all the blood, so maybe they didn't actually
they don't
know about
acknowledge in the book. One of the big things is that like, you know, from the parents to the librarians to the police, everybody knows that something weird is happening in the town, and yet nobody really acknowledges it. But they don't really touch on that a ton in the movie. You know, it's kind of tough. It depends on how you want to look at it, but I think they could have done a better job with that. But the movie didn't suffer a great deal, in my opinion, because of it.
No, that wasn't a weak link in the movie.
Exactly. It's just like a thing you can factually notice. Now, to tell you what I hate about the miniseries, they literally butchered the characters. Like, the whole point is that, you know, some of these characters are a certain way as adults. That's, you know, a big thing to them going back to Derry and fighting it. And for example, I'm blanking on some names, but the fat kid who grows up to be the architect. Mm-hmm. In the book, they explicitly show that he goes to a bar and he's a regular there, and no matter where he is, he could be working in literally in Europe, Asia, whatever. He always flies back to his small Midwestern town to have a drink at the end of the week. And he's always really good to his bartender and everything, so he develops a friendship with him. And everyone in town thinks he's gay because he's never with a woman, but he's like utterly successful. And, you know, he could have any woman he wants, but, you know, he just chooses to be alone. And obviously, you know, disclaimer, I'm just conveying the story. I have nothing against people being gay and single or whatever. But, you know, in the book, it's, hey, like, what's wrong with this guy? He's single, and, you know, it was a different time. It was the 80s. So
everyone had long hair back then.
Exactly. It was weird. It was a very confusing time. Guys wore makeup in bands. You know, who knew? But, you know, so they did this whole thing with him being like, he's a really chill dude. He just goes, has a couple beers. And then when he gets the call that he has to go back to Derry, he goes in, orders a literal pint glass of hard liquor, and downs the whole thing and doesn't get drunk. That's how sobering this confrontation is going to be for him.
Well, doesn't one of them kill themselves?
Yes, that is Stanley, the Jewish,
he's the
rabbi's,
okay.
the Jewish rabbi's son. Yep. Now, here's where I get pissed. Guess what they did in the miniseries? They introduced, that's it was Ben Hanscombe, the architect. They introduce his fucking character by having him get out of a limo with some architecture award he just won, chugging hard liquor from the bottle with two prostitutes.
Sounds like him.
That is the literal opposite of what he was written as in the book. Like, as an adult, he's supposed to be just a normal, like, chill, successful dude. Doesn't really, like, you know, bother himself with romance and romantic partners. He's not an alcoholic. He has a couple beers here and there, which is why it's so shocking when he does go to his bartender and go like, all right, liquor me up. I'm done. I got bad news today. And they did this with... No, go ahead.
Part of me thinks they were trying to condense that entire sequence down into just the reveal, and it failed miserably. Exactly.
And I think it could have been done, like, the whole scene, you know, maybe last, maybe like 5-10 minutes if I had to guess off the top of my head. They could have literally just had him go into a bar and just used a little bit of exposition and it would have gone quicker, better. Just have the bartender Ricky be like, "Hey Ben, like I haven't seen you here in like, in a week or so. You've been working in Europe." And you're like, yeah. Do you want your usual 2 beers? Like, oh no, give me this. And like, just totally exposition it. And maybe it'll be a little more cryptic, but it'll be faithful and not like, oh, this is literally wrong.
Well, you have to remember, like, back in the day, like, Stephen King movies didn't really have a good time. Like, I think the most successful thing he did, movie adaptation, was The Shining, and he actually hated that. He thought it was, like, a really horrible, like, adaptation of the book.
Oh, I didn't know he hated it.
Yeah, he actually made a mini TV series.
What's that called? The Mist, where he actually preferred the original film cut to that so much that he wanted to steal the ending, where everybody's in the car and they only have enough bullets for all but one of them.
Right.
And
that's not the original ending?
No, that's not the book ending.
Okay.
Like, originally, they just go straight to the military rolling through, if I'm not mistaken, and basically everything in the store amounts to nothing, but they got out.
Yeah, I think it's only recently that, like, he's been getting, like, really good movies coming out, and, like...
Yeah. Wasn't Misery supposed to be pretty good, though?
I don't think I haven't seen that one, actually.
The book or the movie?
Because I've heard, I think, pretty good things about the movie adaptation.
I don't remember Stephen King's reaction to it, but it seemed pretty solid if memory serves. It's been a few years.
I mean, Kathy Bates did an incredible job.
Definitely.
But yeah, so I mean, that's my only issue is that, like, the TV movie just wasn't, I mean, very good. And when they have the showdown with it in the sewers, it just feels bleh. Like, there's no real danger. The one thing they did do was Henry Bowers, the psycho bully with the knife. He was very good in the TV series. Everyone else was just kind of like there, and the kids were well acted. The issue is just that, like, even Tim Curry couldn't save the fact that Pennywise just didn't seem very dangerous until the end.
And then when played at the clown angle so hard that you didn't really get as much of a monster side from him until those dramatic sequences.
See, I was watching someone else reviewing. He said that was actually a good point because they wanted the clown to be a clown, not be a monster.
Right.
So, like, I can see why.
I don't know, but I think he seems like clown in the new one while still being creepy. Like, he's clearly influencing these horrible things that are happening to these kids. But when he sees them, he's all, "Oh, you want a balloon?
Go play with your younger brother."
Yeah, exactly. And like, I personally, whether this was King's original vision or not, I don't know. But I really like what they did with, like, the scenes in the new one where, Pennywise will just open his maw of a mouth and it'll be like 3 rows of teeth.
Oh, yeah.
And then he'll go back to looking like a normal clown. Like, I loved that. I thought that was so well done.
It's back to the surrealism part of it. It feels like the entire thing could just morph into another sequence at any given time as long as Pennywise is involved.
Exactly, and it keeps you guessing.
Yeah, there's the argument to be said that was based on the overuse of CGI. There's also the argument to be said that it's just a perpetual fear state for the children and how this is told through their perspective.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it was really well balanced out, and you didn't lose the idea of him being like, is he just a clown? Is he this? Is he that? And they do way better elements of, like, the other fear triggers, like the painting and the sink, the bathroom, and whatnot. They did a really good job with those. And I don't know, Pennywise was just way more engaging because of it. Like, when Georgie gets dragged away in the TV movie, it's like, all right, wow, creepy, ooh, spooky. When he gets his arm ripped off in the new one, that's horror. Like, it's, it wasn't surprising. You knew, like, this clown is gonna kill this little boy. There's no fucking doubt about it. But when it happens, it's like, oh my fucking god. And I think that's the strength of this movie, is it's not shock, it's not horror porn, it's not like gore porn, It's not shock value. It's just literally well crafted.
I'm very happy it wasn't gore porn because, like, that's my.
Me too.
I hate that trend of horror movie.
I like horror movies like that, but I'm sick of it being the only thing people were doing for the like mid 2000s. You know,
we can blame
Saw for that.
Yeah, I was about to say we should blame Saw for that one.
And it sucks because I enjoyed the idea of the Saw series. It's just like
I enjoyed as much as 3/8 of the Saw series.
Exactly. Yeah.
There were so many of them.
It just felt unnecessary, and like. I don't know. Like gore porn gore has its place. You know, we play violent video games. We enjoy things that are like shocking and stuff like that. It doesn't make us like a violent person or anything. You know, I obviously as a player of violent video games, I'm likely to defend violent media. But like, there's a time and a place for horror to be like, oh look, some guy got splattered.
Yeah, I think there's a part of all of us that enjoys seeing Robert Englund turn Johnny Depp into a bloody cyclone, a Gornado, if you will.
Exactly. Like, there's just, you can't beat that as a specific form of primal human entertainment. Yeah, that being said, you know, there's something, I like subtlety as well. You know, for as much as I'll go to bat for all the blood and gore you can fit on a screen, I'm also one to say, like, you know, instead of Georgie just getting, like, his head exploded with a fucking, like, Pennywise balloon grenade. Like, yeah, that would have technically been horror, but it's way more effective having him, like, lure him in quietly and then, like, by the way, I have teeth, rip your arm off, and then he just pulls him into the sewer and he's gone. Like, it's a brief moment of subtle gore, and it's done.
Because I feel like it kind of gives off that Predator Hunter vibe to it, where you, like, you come into the trap and, like, you think you're safe, and then bam.
Absolutely.
I can't remember the name of the movie. It came out within the last 5 years. Sinister, I want to say.
Okay.
Where I may be thinking of the wrong movie, but the entire thing is based around. I'm blanking on the character's name entirely. Hawk.
I'm IMDbing this.
Yeah, I think it was. I'll get the names wrong. The character.
It was Ethan Hawke's character.
Ethan Hawke. Okay.
Yeah, Ellison Oswalt.
Yeah, the entire time it had very little horror, but it went incredibly hard on the suspense and the tension.
That's the thing. Sometimes the implication can be enough.
Yeah, it just feels like the movie's winding you up for an hour and 20 minutes until it gets to that last sequence, and then everything's fully realized, all the information's out there.
This is the one with the box of serial killer tapes, right?
Yes.
Yes, I really want to see that.
I would not recommend the sequel, but the first one's killer.
That's pretty much what I hear. And like, yeah, dude, I can't tell you how many times, right? I'll be on like, you name it. Like, I'll be reading like a strategy guide or like, you know, a TV tropes article or something of that nature, and I'll read about like a particularly gruesome moment in a game, right? Reading about it sounds so horrifying because of implication. You'll see it and it'll be like, oh yeah, that's like, it's gore. Okay. Like, but sometimes like, that's why the, you guys ever played the old Mac Venture point and clicks like Deja Vu and Shadowgate and Uninvited?
No, I never played those.
I think I played, just dropped out of my head, Alone in the Dark, but that was the only one.
That was the Resident Evil style game. I'm talking about like the old, like it was on like the Mac 2 or something, like the black and white.
Oh, then I'm out of my element then.
No, it's okay. They're great games. They're really worth checking out. And the thing is, the game is graphically displayed in like, how do I put this? Like stills. So like you'll be on a screen and then you'll move right and it'll just like eclipse the screen and then bring a new one into focus. And then you'll be in that room, whatever that means. If there's like, you know, in Deja Vu, it's a detective story. You'll be walking around Illinois, and like sometimes you'll move in a direction that should go to like the newsstand, right? But so instead of
like a text adventure.
Yeah, exactly. Instead, there might be a mugger there. He's just a mugger. Like, that's not anything particularly horrifying in a video game, but it scares you because of the thing that like there's no warning, like there's no build up. It's just, oh, I walk here and oh, it's a mugger. And when bad things happen in that game, they're all described through text. So when a mugger, like, you know, if you kill the mugger, right, and you go to jail for it, it sounds way more scary because of the way that they're describing it. And that's why I think horror movies that do suspense can be way better because of that kind of principle. You know what I mean? I'm relating it to video games, but you don't just go, hey, here's a lot of gore. It's like, well, what happened to Georgie after he got dragged into the sewer?
Yeah, there's the show don't tell. There's the use the audience's imagination more than your special effects department.
Right.
See, like, I'm a big fan of that.
So many different ways.
And they did a blend, you know. That's what I liked about it. They showed Pennywise's gaping wall of teeth. He rips Georgie's arm off and then drags him into the sewer. So you get like a taste. It's like, well, if he'll do that, what else is he going to do to him? You know what I mean? And it's I think it's infinitely more effective.
So, I was listening to a review, and the guy brought up a point that he thought that the movie would have been better if we were more subtle with the music. So he thought that the music they went a little ham on the music, and if it was like more of like a suspense, like you just hear hands scraping on the door, it would be more effective.
See, I don't have a strong opinion on that. I didn't notice that it was like a lot of fucking music, you know, but at the same time, like it maybe they're right. I don't have a strong opinion on that personally, but it's a good thought, and I intend to rewatch it very soon. The only reason I haven't is because it's not out on Blu-ray yet.
No, yeah,
when
it comes out, I'm watching it again.
Yeah, so I will absolutely get back to you boys on that when I rewatch it. But
it was definitely a nice surprise.
Yeah, such a good movie.
It was the most Stephen King feeling movie I've seen in a long time. I mistakenly got my hopes up for The Dark Tower, and
I heard disappointing things.
Yeah, I wanted to see that too, but then also
I could go off on that one. Just I'll try not to.
Yeah.
Like, I was not the biggest fan of the Dark Tower books. I thought they were some of Stephen King's best, but they weren't my favorites. That said, compared to the books, it's just a tragedy, and I don't mean that
right.
A depressing story. I mean, I'm pretty sure
it was just
that
bad.
franchise go to death. Like, it was in the morgue at that point.
Which is really sad because like the trailers look good.
Yeah, I mean, depending on who you talk to among Stephen King fans, it's basically his War of the Rings. Like, it has a built-up legacy that nothing else can match in his catalog.
That's an interesting way to put it, because I've never, read it or anything, but like that I could see that being the case.
Like, it is his biggest, most thoroughly crafted science fiction fantasy world. Like,
right.
Even where he puts details peppered throughout all of his other stories to keep you in the idea that this is a Stephen King fiction, Dark Tower was his, period. There was nothing of our world to it until things just... It only came to our world as a visitor. It wasn't a part of our world.
Right.
That's the way to describe it.
I saw a couple theories about, like, what the kids are using to fight Pennywise, like, why they have the gifts that they do. And I've seen... It's really cool noticing references to other Stephen King stuff in his media. It supposedly might all take place in a similar multiverse, or universe, rather. Not multiverse. But, like, it's interesting to see that potential crossover.
I'm trying really hard not to make a Dream Warriors reference right now. Yeah, maybe I just want to sing Dawkins. Who knows?
I was gonna say, why you knocking on Dawkins, bro?
Hey, I'd be rocking with Dawkins. Come on. I mean, did you see the special features for when they were working with Robert Englund on that movie?
I think I did see that, actually. Yeah.
I'm going to throw out the PG-13 for a bit. There was a point where Dawkins was snorting coke off of Freddy Krueger's claws.
What?
If that If that is not the most metal Dawkins is ever...
Okay, let me clarify. I didn't necessarily mean let's keep it PG-13. I just don't really want to talk about that scene in the book.
Yeah, no.
It's a little sensitive. Yeah. But yeah, no, snorting coke off Robert Englund's Freddy claws, totally fine.
100% okay.
Oh man, yeah, no, I'm really excited. Actually, I'm gonna look something up real quick. Let's see.
I sincerely hope that it's real and I didn't imagine it, because that is one of the biggest reasons I love Dawkins.
Wait, so was this an extra you said, or?
I forget if it was a documentary afterwards or an extra on the DVD, but it was something like that.
Hey, get out here.
Let's see. It comes out.
Oh, you know what? Look up Razor Fist Dawkins. It should be in there. Like, he did an entire anthology of the band, including their work with Nightmare on Elm Street.
Let's see. I'm trying to find a release date for it.
The next part comes out in 2019, I believe, right?
Yeah. Also, I think it was really interesting that they made it on the 27th anniversary, or they released it like 27 years after the first one.
They had one chance to get the anniversary timing perfect, and they took it.
You gotta, like...
Also, apparently it went through, like, kind of, like, developer hell for a bit, where it went through different directors. I might be wrong about that one.
Yeah, and they just, like, took the opportunity, let's just delay it, like, a little longer at this point. Yeah, because I didn't really hear much about it, personally, until it was, like, almost ready to come out. But I also don't follow movie development, so... Other people might be. We should ask Matt about it because he probably heard about when they were making it. Also, this is a good thing to do a to be continued. They are rebooting Spawn.
Oh, I heard about that.
And from what I heard, they're aware that the first one was garbage. They're bringing McFarlane on to do it, and he's actually like, you know, creative director or whatever. He's actually gonna make the Spawn movie this time instead of just funding it, and it's gonna be like R-rated. It's gonna be like insane, and I'm fucking pumped.
Were you ever into Iced Earth, the band?
Vaguely, yes.
They had an entire
I
album
enjoy
based
them.
on
I need to
Spawn.
listen to them more. Oh, that's right. Which one was that?
The Dark Saga, or was it Dark Saga?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Oh my god. It says McFarlane likes the album. Dude, that's awesome.
It was like, I love that album. That really got me into Spawn. I watched the movie when I was younger. I was like, yeah, this is good.
That's right. The cover art is literally Spawn. Like,
yeah. Then I played, like, they got me really into Spawn. So I played the Xbox game, which was actually like trash.
Wait, which one?
Oh, Spawn had like an Xbox game. I forget what it's called.
Wait. I can't think of the name. Armageddon?
That might have been it.
You did not like Spawn Armageddon?
Not really.
What the fuck is wrong with it? It was so good. You could just walk up to people and just pepper them with like pistol rounds and then axe them in the face and then chain up to a building. Like, it was awesome.
Like, if I remember correctly, like, it's been a while. It kind of reminded me of a lot of Devil May Cry.
Yeah, it was that style. Yeah, I
mean,
from what I'm seeing on like Metacritic and shit, it's got like a 3-star average out of 5, like mediocre. But like I liked it a lot. But with this kind of stuff, and I know obviously we're Spawn fans, but like it helps that we're Spawn fans. Like, I'm sure if you're not into Spawn, it could be a little bit of a disappointing game. Mm-hmm. But playing as Spawn and ripping shit up is kind of half the fun.
So apparently, in the comic books, he becomes like God. Like, he kills God and Satan.
Yeah, he ascends to the mantle of God, and he ends up turning it down to return to vigilantism.
What the fuck? Dude, okay, can I just say this is why I don't read comic books?
Yeah.
Seriously, I feel like the stakes always get too high. Like, why should I care about the story? Like, okay, Spider-Man, I like as a character because it's like, he is vulnerable. He has family and friends that are vulnerable. He is fighting villains. They're strong and they're interesting. They have powers, like, but they're not God. But then, like, you see this shit, like in other comics, right? Especially, it's a big Marvel thing, like, Thanos can destroy the multiverse with the Infinity Stones, and it's like, why do I care? Like, if he wipes everything out, there's gonna be no one around to care.
Yeah, Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. I mean,
does he?
Something of that scale is basically played as a joke at this point.
No, that I'm fine with because it's obviously supposed to be stupid. But like, people get really into these comics, and I don't blame them. I'm not saying they're idiots or anything, but I could never do it because I get invested in the heroes and stuff. I've always liked Batman. I've always liked Spider-Man for those reasons. They're vulnerable. They're not perfect. But like, when you're literally trying to stop somebody from destroying all life in the universe, why do I care?
Dude,
you're losing me.
What's it? Dragon Ball Z's in that situation right now where they're like power fest on everything.
Yeah,
even DBZ, I give Dragon Ball Z leeway too, because again, somebody out there's probably going to crucify me for being wrong, but I'm pretty sure it started as a parody.
No, I think if Dragon Ball Z
Akira
started
Toriyama was it was written by Akira Toriyama, and he's primarily a gag writer, so he treated it more as a comedy than a legitimate action adventure.
Yeah, I think didn't Dragon Ball is more serious if I remember correctly, but like once he got to Z, I never read or watched Dragon Ball, so I could be really wrong on that. But like Z and Up were supposed to be like a joke on like the anime at the time that were like, oh, my power level is this. Yeah, well, mine's gonna be this now, and you gotta top it.
Around. And I see this as somebody who's been watching it ever since we first got what is it, Funimation or
yeah,
like back when they first came out, and I was a lot younger.
Hey, stop breaking my wall.
Dragon Ball was an inessential starting point because the way the adventure was not always power scaling. It was a matter of sometimes technique. It was a matter of... I'm not going to say it was like a monster of the week like Star Trek, but the thing is, there wasn't this perpetual grind up from... like an interstellar threat to an intergalactic threat to an interuniversal threat.
And that's why I think it's a better, a story you can take more seriously. Yes, it's lighthearted in a lot of times, but like it's not ridiculous. You know, like I said, DBZ, I think the whole point was doing it on purpose, and it just happened to grip people.
Well, right now we're in Super, where like they have a new transformation every other episode. It's like we don't need to train more.
Original Dragon Ball, where the day was saved by a bipedal pig wishing for a pair of panties.
Yes.
Right.
I miss those days.
Exactly. Well, because when the state, like, I don't know, I feel like when the stakes in any story are too high, I mean cosmically high, like, not so high that, like, oh, you know, you're risking your life, because that's the ultimate price most people realistically think they can pay, depending on your beliefs. You know, when you're on the point where it's like the universe will be destroyed, or like the even sometimes, dude, the planet being destroyed, that works in sci-fi when there's interplanetary travel. But, you know, so a planet being destroyed is like a country being destroyed at that point. But when you have like universe threats, god threats, I like stories where a god is not all powerful, they're just very strong. You know what I mean? God, like, to me, in a good story, means not infallible, just really, really strong.
Oh, so like, I hate to bring me up again, but I've been like, you know me, I've been like really into Divinity recently.
Yeah.
And the gods in that game are just like beings from like an earlier era that just got really strong.
That's what I mean. That's awesome. Like, the idea of that is really fucking cool to me.
And the whole point of the game is to kill your own gods and become the next god.
Yeah.
It may just be me making a connection where there isn't one, but that seems to be a rising trend with RPGs of late. Like, that was also
it is.
Dragon Age Inquisition.
That's something that's bothering me about RPGs and like a lot of games like that, is people are going the whole like Divinity, not the series Divinity, but like literal being divine. And like, I don't know, I feel like, again, it's just it ups the ante too quick in a lot of stories.
Yeah, when it comes in like, I don't know, a good way down the franchise's line, I understand it, especially if the franchise deals with religious elements. But if it's just power scaling the same way you would see in like Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super, it feels deflating.
Right.
Like, the stakes are only so high. How are you going to rationalize what else happens in the story?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and the thing is, you can't scale it back from there. You know, you've already set the precedent. I would much rather, before a series, and I'm a big proponent of this, before a series gets so out of control that you have to just hit the nuke button, just end it.
So like,
and start another series. Like, I'm fine with that.
There's a show I want to bring up. I used to be a big fan of a show called Saint Seiya, and they have a show.
Okay, I've heard of it.
It's really good. It's like actually older than Dragon Ball Z. And
Saint Seiya is a very like old guard anime.
Yeah, and like it has the same problem as Dragon Ball, where Oh, actually, no. It has the same problem as Berserk, where the director, like the guy who actually makes it, only comes out with like one chapter every 6 months.
Right.
So they have like 1,000 OVAs coming out at all times.
Game of Thrones with it getting spin-offs rather than direct follow-ups because George R. R. Martin has written more material, but D&D still want to make more.
Yeah.
So, the problem with this show was that they had a spin-off called Omega, where they literally kill the god that made the universe. And then the very next, in season 2, I'm like, wow, how do you go past this? They fight Mars, like the god of war, and his lackey kicks the crap out of the guy who killed the god of war. I'm like,
no.
But how?
and this is why, like, I think we're running out of time, so I'm gonna end my comments on this note. This is why, as an artist, you know, I play music, I don't draw or anything, but I never wanted to go into an artistic field of work because I never wanted to feel like, wow, this has run its course, but I could keep making money if I keep doing it.
Yeah.
I would never want to be in that position.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm not published, but I have several charts about the progression for the stuff I'm writing, and the idea of it being played out is just like, I ran out of paper, and that's the only way.
Yeah. And like, I'm sure, you know, you would feel very conflicted about, like, hey, your publisher's telling you can make a ton more money off this, but you gotta, like, throw together 3 books you don't want to.
Yeah.
Like...
But sales...
Exactly.
Just before I lose my train of thought while we're talking about the idea of these different threat spells, I want to... It's my least favorite Mass Effect, after Andromeda, but... franchise has some really low points. Anyway, the thing I want to steal is from Morden Solus, who is my favorite character in Mass Effect 2, where he's talking about how he doesn't imagine things in terms of the galaxy being in peril or the universe being in danger or saving the entirety of organic life. He thinks about saving his favorite nephew because he needs to keep this on a, for lack of a better word, humanized scale. Something that's comprehensible and not just over the top for the sake of being over the top.
So they kind of take that trope and subvert it.
Yeah, I mean, you literally have elder machine gods that harvest entire civilizations on their own time versus just this Clint Eastwood-styled Solarian / Jeff Goldblum Jurassic Park doctor. And he's just bringing the scale of the threat down to one person he wants to protect.
Right. I think that's interesting because they go out of their way to subvert that. And I think that, like, it's really interesting. I need to play Mass Effect. God damn it.
So, like,
I recommend the first game, no holds barred. The rest of the franchise, you're on your own.
Dude, yeah. I was so into Mass Effect 2. I was really into Mass Effect 1. I got 2. I got the DLC, and then, like, the game bugged, and I didn't get my DLC content. I was like, well, fuck this game.
Okay, 2 things before we disband. Number 1, theory is that it is coming out before the holidays on Blu-ray.
Makes sense.
2, and it's gonna have a 15-minute director's cut, like longer.
Okay.
For quote, for hardcore fans with an extended quote very funny scene of the Losers Club trying to hype themselves up to jump off the cliff.
Okay.
And second of all, one of the screenshots I just noticed, the 2 movies in the theater outside in Derry are Batman and Lethal Weapon 2.
Oh, there was another one too. There was like oh crap, what movie was it? There was like another like homage to a different movie in there. I forget which one it was though.
That's awesome.
But they're like, yeah, we know it's kind of cheesy, so we're just going to throw this reference in there.
Right. All right. Well, I am going to cut my stream. I think that's all the time we have. Do you wanna play us out, Eric?
Yeah. Well. I think this was a really good first show we've had.
I had fun, man.
I'll be sure to drag you down again on a regular basis.
Awesome.
Yeah.
With your puns. Oh, by the way, Chris.
I'm telling you, we're not doing Who's On First. Yeah.
Oh, come on. If you're going to bring Marvel in here, you have to know you're going to awaken the Punisher and also the Mummler.
This guy over here is like the god of puns.
God.
Like, you must be ready for punishment.
Bye, and ending stream. No, get me out.